What is up, my deranged little unicorns? Go pour yourself a cup of fuck yeah and chase it down with 2 shots of I don't give a damn, because you are listening to Unhinged Inc. I'm your host, Jara Ashwell. Let's get into the episode. This episode discusses topics such as substance abuse, trauma, abuse, and other topics similar to this. If this is something that may trigger you, please move on to another episode. And as always, there'll be some information and contact details in the show notes if you do feel like you need to reach out to someone. All right, friends, welcome back to another episode of Unhinged Inc. I'm your host, Jara Ashwell, and today we have Dani from Conscious Heart Awakening here with us. So welcome to the podcast, Dani.
Thank you.
It's lovely to have you here. Dani is going to dive deep into awakening and authenticity with us today. But first, we're going to find out a bit more about Dani and what ignited her passions to facilitate transformative retreats and healing practices and help people find themselves again. So let's find out a little bit more about you. Where were you born? What is your story?
Okay, so I grew up on Groote Island, which is past Darwin and Gove up in the Gulf. So I grew up with a sister, an older sister, her name's Sarah, and a really, really beautiful, close connection with my family. There was a lot of fishing, camping, just fun. Really, really beautiful upbringing.
So you've always been really connected to the elements and being outdoors, grounding and all of that.
Yeah.
Is there a little bit of that is there some of that in your family at all, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's interesting because my sister in particular, she's always worked in this space and been in this space for probably the last 10 years at least. And myself not so much up until probably the last 3 years ago. And I remember it was probably 7 years ago now, she finished her yoga teacher training, and I went back to, she lives in Mackay now, and I went back to Mackay and I was complaining because she makes the most delicious food ever. And I was like, I don't want all this fucking vegan food. It wasn't even vegan, it was just like Whole Foods deliciousness. And I'm like, fucking hippie shit, this, that. Like, I had a lot to say about the space with absolute no awareness of what it was. But yeah, I definitely feel as though it runs in our family, but it was very subconsciously for me.
At that point, were you at a point in your life where you were a bit angry at the world as well?
Yeah.
So you weren't ready to accept that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with that, you said about 3 years ago was sort of when you started to dive into this. Mm-hmm. So you were an owner of a very successful hair, was it hair cartel?
Yeah.
So you were doing that.
Yeah.
What was the light bulb moment for you where you went, because hair to healing, like, look, hairdressers out there, massive shout out. You are the unofficial therapist.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff you must hear and help people through. So there's still an element of that, but going
100%.
from hair and beauty to this spiritual healing space.
Yeah.
What was the light bulb moment for you?
I had a few.
Yep.
I feel as though there was one time in particular where I hit rock bottom. I was in a relationship. It was my first girlfriend, you can say. So at the start it felt so right, because being that it was the first female relationship I was in, I was like, wow, this is amazing. But I don't feel as though it was the person that was right. It was just that it was my first female relationship. Yep. So I dived head in with it.
Because they can be quite intense.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've always, from a very young age, always had a lot of partying. There's been recreational use throughout. But this relationship in particular, I would say, really hit rock bottom with it. There was a lot of use, and I would say domestic violence. It feels like hard to say publicly, but there was a lot there. And I think my behavior in that and my response to the situations that I was in is something that has made me get to a point where after this is like when I came into this space, I suppose, there was a lot of forgiveness on my end as well for how I showed up and how I was, because I didn't grow up in a household like that at all. Like, my household was I didn't even see my parents fight. That's another whole story.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something that I was never witnessed. I was never shown. I never grew up in a household of drugs or abuse or anything like that. So to be in that situation, and it was only 12 months of a relationship, but it got extremely toxic, extremely, yeah. Shit,
Yeah, it's
really
damaging.
shit.
Yeah, it can really leave some long-term scars there.
Yeah, and I think it was something that I struggled with was the way that I showed up in that. And there was it, I mean, obviously it takes two very reactive people in the time for it to get like that. But I suppose how I got into this work was I was actually in a new relationship. This is probably 12 months after that relationship. And I went to some meditation thing that I didn't even know what I was going there for, and the word forgiveness, and she basically just said like, oh, forgive yourself, that, you know, whatever it was. And it was something, such a basic line, and it just got me like, so. And I think I cried for like half an hour, like hysterically crying for so long. And it was in those moments where I realized, wow, I've got so much work to do here, because I was in a new relationship, I was happy, I was so-called thriving, but there was still so much hurt and pain and forgiveness, like for myself, but also for the situation that I was in, for the person that I was with, the person that I become.
So a lot of self-sabotaging.
Oh my God, so much.
Without awareness.
Yeah.
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 You just start a fight for no reason, and you're like, why do I want this?
It was, yeah. And it's like this vicious cycle. Like when the highs were high, it was great. When the lows were low, it was horrible. And that is a perfect example of drug use, when it's,
It doesn't have to be a drug. It can be a person, a place, a food, anything.
Literally, yeah. And I feel like every aspect that you just mentioned was something that was when the highs are high and the lows are low.
Yeah. So you went to this meditating thing.
Yeah.
Forgiveness came up.
Yeah.
That's a big leap from there to being like, huge. Let's burn the place down.
Yeah, yeah. So basically when that came up was when I realized that I had a lot of pain there.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I'd just moved on from it. I then went to all of these little nuggets that are coming in were so unintentional. They were all things, and I always say things don't happen by coincidence, or everything happens for a reason, which sounds so cliche, but it's true. A lady, her name's Fee, she's in Townsville here. She works at Inner Wellness Kinesiology.
Yes.
Yep. And she was a client of mine at the salon, and she said to me, came into the appointment and she was a little bit late, and she said, I'm so sorry, I've been with a client. I'm like, oh, what do you do for work? And she explained very briefly, she could probably read my energy, that I was not open to this sort of space at all. And she goes, oh, it's really good for stress, it's really good for this and that. And I was like, oh, I need stress. Like, I was severe burnout. This was when I was working 60, 70 hours at the salon, and
on your feet, no lunch breaks, no food.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
And yeah, very, very severe burnout. So I went to her thinking that I was going there to relieve stress, I suppose. And I got so much more out of it. So that was the first time that I'd felt energy shift, you can say. So I had they told me that I had bursitis and that I'd torn my trap, and I had chronic pain for about 6 years, and to the point where I was being like, I'm going to have to go into surgery to be able to help with this. And I went to Fee. I wasn't going there with the intention of working with my shoulder. I thought it was for stress. Within 2 sessions, I've never had pain since. Yeah.
Is that the trauma stored in your body?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the first time that I had experience working with energy, and understanding that our body can store pain. And it's like that saying, our body keeps the score. And I sort of felt hooked from that. I was like, wow, like there's so much more to this. And I'm not going to go in and explain what kinesiology is, because that poor Fee, I'll probably butcher it for her.
Google, guys.
Yeah. But it basically helps shift stagnant energy through the body. And we've worked through like past lives, generational trauma, for me, childhood trauma, so much, as well as stress.
Yeah.
Which is what I went there for.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So you
so
continued on this almost your self-healing journey.
It was very much a self-healing journey. I then started experiencing breath work.
Yep.
I went to a place in Townsville and I had some profound experiences. And I, again, didn't really know what I was signing up for. But as you're aware with breath work, there's a lot of like energy releasing or trauma releasing if that comes up for the person. And I just wasn't expecting what had happened, basically.
Yeah.
So I continued that, and it was just in like little moments of receiving that I was like, wow, the way I feel and the way, like, the safety that I feel in these spaces and the self-connection that I can start feeling myself of, I'm going to say, coming back home.
Yeah.
I want to be able to share this with others, because that was something that I didn't experience myself. I've always been a severe people pleaser.
Yeah.
Like, there's some stories there.
Yeah. And even into the chosen job you
Yeah,
chose, hairdressing.
yeah.
Like, that is just, I've got
Yeah.
to make them happy. They've got to love this. I've got to please
100%.
them.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Do you feel good? Tell me you feel good.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's something that I didn't even realize until after I'd finished hairdressing.
Yep.
That I was like, wow, that is such a, how do you feel? And it's like, subconsciously you want them to tell you that you've made them feel good.
Yes. It's that,
like,
it's that inner child.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that reassurance.
Yeah.
You know, affirmations.
Yeah.
Tell me I've done a good job,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Because we probably haven't got that elsewhere.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it started off doing it all myself, I suppose. And then came from a place of the way that I felt in those spaces, I wanted to be able to share with others. And I went to a retreat in the sunny coast. This is 3 or so years ago now. And it was at the retreat, I remember watching the facilitators up there being like, I want to do that one day. And when I remember thinking that, I've always struggled with public speaking. It was something as a child that had come up for me with public speaking. I'd had a certain situation come up and never worked through it. So I was always had this story or this belief there that I wouldn't be able to public speak ever. So it's sort of my dream of what I thought I had in that moment. I was like, oh no, I'll never be able to do that because I could never get up and speak in front of people. So it was sort of like I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And I just got there by small little steps. My first course that I did was a yin yoga teacher training.
Yep.
I did a reiki course, a lomi massage course, which is now, it's a Hawaiian-based massage, style massage. And now I work it into more of an intuitive style massage. It's not traditional of what I'd originally learnt. I just find myself, I work much better quite intuitively with the energy that's present.
Sensing what's happening.
Yeah, rather than following like a structure with a massage.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's where it started. And then I wanted to be able to intertwine that into day retreats.
Yep.
Like one-on-one with people, because at that point I still didn't feel confident speaking publicly as such. I was doing yin yoga, which was, the classes that go up to 10 people, and yeah, I suppose I just worked through it. It's interesting when I'm in the spaces, I close down my eyes and I can literally feel something channeling through me. And it's like not me speaking, which is really cool because it just comes.
Very intuitive.
Yeah, just, I don't know, it just flows and it comes. And I realized that through yin yoga, because that was the only time I would put myself into public speaking spaces. So yeah, as I just showed up and kept doing it, it was just a place of comfort, and I'm going to take that back. It's a place of safety that I feel along with others feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like when you say it brings you home.
Yeah.
Because home's not a house. Home's in yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just something that, like, the essence of conscious heart awakening is coming, like, self-connection. That's that's where it is for me, and what I wish to be able to bring others. And it comes from a place of what I felt I didn't have for years. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know I was showing up in spaces with pleasing and with self-sabotaging. And I remember an old friend said to me, like, who the fuck are you? Like, you know, we were going through a lot of stuff at the time. And I remember her just feeling so frustrated with me because she was like, I just want to know who you are. And I remember being in that moment of, I don't know who I am. So those like little pivotal moments, I suppose, brought me to be able to hold a space for others to be able to find that, because it was something that I didn't know myself, and I allowed myself to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's forever going.
That's it. Healing's not linear.
Yes.
There's always going to be
layers.
life.
There's so much layers. Like, you think you've worked through something and then bam, it's something else. Like,
that's it. Or you go into a session where you're like, I know what's going to come
Yes.
up. And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yeah.
So you're running Conscious Heart Awakening,
Yeah.
your hair salon.
Yeah.
But running them together, what was the point where you were like, that's massive hours, burnout, all the rest would have snuck up. A lot of people I know work a job to feed their passion.
Yeah.
And they're like, once I get to that point, I'll pull it. When's the right point? When was your ripcord moment where you're like, I can't do both well?
Yeah. So
that's not me anymore. I need to step into this.
Yeah. So when I started with Conscious Heart Awakening, there was never a clear vision. I feel like it came to me. And I feel, even though I was like taking the steps to make it happen, obviously to do the training courses and things like that, it was just this massive calling. But I started off doing it in my living room.
Yep.
And just doing like little yin yoga things for people, for like 3 people in my lounge room. And so it was definitely something that I had no intention or no vision of where it was going.
You just knew you had to do it.
Yeah, but I don't know what I was doing it for. It was, bizarre, but not. And I was still hairdressing at the time and very severely burnt out, so made a very conscious choice to start pulling back there. And as I did that, I started delving deeper into this space, receiving and giving, and the passion, and it's more of the feeling that I get when I'm in the space. And I was like, wow, this is more than just a hobby.
Yeah.
It feels more than just showing up in a space to get people to connect to their breathing. There was so much more to it. So I feel like once I found that like real purpose and that real like home feeling, was moments where I started noticing, oh, okay, I would actually prefer to be here than I would be at the salon. And that was really hard to admit, because that salon was my identity. I had, we'd opened the salon myself, and the other business owner, and we'd opened the salon. We were 21 and 23. We had it for 8 years, and it was literally the identity of who we were, I can speak for myself there.
But is that societal conditioning that I'm successful, I run my own business, it earns this much, I don't eat lunch breaks, I do this, I'm a boss bitch. In your
masculine.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. So it's like I didn't know how to go into that other space, because it was slow and feminine and in flow. It wasn't that drive and that driven feeling behind it.
Yeah.
So I did that for probably... my timelines feel a bit all over the place, but 6 to 12 months. And it was when I started, like, we had staff at the salon, and we were going through a lot with some staff members at the time. And my business partner, she had fallen pregnant, so we knew that she was going to be stepping away. And my passion at that point was not in the salon, and it was just really hard to admit. But it was more at the point where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be doing this on my own for quite some time. And I feel like deep down, her and I, my business partner and I, both knew she wasn't coming back. It wasn't spoken about openly, but we knew she wasn't coming back. And I was like, I'm going to be doing this on my own. So it sort of just happened, but it just got to a point where I was like, I can't do this. I was actually experiencing, backtracking a little bit when I was saying about the pain in my trap. That started when I opened the salon. And it was for years, and then left. Energetically, I'm going to say left. And then as we started speaking about closing the salon, the pain started coming back.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was actually through a somatic healing session with a lady in Townsville, and it's basically where you feel into sensations in your body and you associate the emotions that are with the sensations. And it was all in my right side and it was all in my trap. And there was just these messages coming through of like, you've got to let it go, you've got to let it go.
Just grasping too tight.
Yeah. And so it was only there in that session, and it was the exact same pain as what was there when I opened it. And that for me was just my body telling me like, this is time. Yeah.
And your body does.
It does.
We just have to listen.
Yeah.
It will make you stop if you're not listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like the pivotal point in the fact of, this is time to let it go. And we actually had someone from Cairns reach out to us around that time, and it happened very quick, but it was so the right timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I guess too, that's why I think what I can feel coming through is why you're so passionate about breaking down those limiting beliefs and those societal pressures and beliefs. Like, what does that look like for you when now you're in your practice with people? I've been one of your clients. I'm guilty of having such incredibly limiting beliefs. Is that massive that you see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mean as in like, what are the breakthroughs that I see people?
Oh, just like with that societal conditioning and that, like, how do you see that coming through your doors?
It's huge. It's a massive, massive part. I feel as though, because, like I said, self-connection is where the heart of Conscious Heart Awakening is. And when we have self-connection, I think of self-connection of before all the beliefs, before the conditioning, before the limiting beliefs, before it all, it's like our childhood creates and society creates what we actually believe.
Even from being in the womb too, we hear everything.
100%.
Yeah.
So self-connection to me is coming back to that soul essence, that person, that soul that came through before all of that. And it's something that I feel deeply passionate about, because a lot of the time our limiting beliefs and our conditioning isn't ours. It's generational. It comes from our parents, our friends, everyone else around us but ourselves. Like, it's so rare that there are people out there that do it. I wasn't one of those. But it's so often that we will be like, oh, well, this is how it is because this is what society says it is, and that's just how it is. And I would have never second guessed anything. Whatever mum or my dad or my sister said, that was it. I never second guessed it. But is that me? No. Yeah. So the beliefs that stem around from that is huge.
Absolutely, because it's that belonging, but we sort of dictate our belonging by what those loved ones tell us it is. And, you know, not everyone comes from a beautiful home, and our parents do the best as well with what they know. And, you know, that whole, you must stay at school, you must finish school, you'll never amount to anything. Like, I still hear people saying that these days. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's people making money on YouTube, bloody playing Nintendo or PlayStations.
I know, I feel that.
Yeah. So those people that sort of experiencing that or learning that for the first time, and they're having those moments where they're talking to someone who gets it, and they're like, oh, okay, so that's not normal. Oh, okay, that is a pattern. How could that show up physically for people, do you feel?
There's so many different ways. For some people, it can be physically in their body. So how I was saying with my own personal like pain in my body, it can show up that way, but it can also show up in a way that we show up to the world. So the way that we present ourselves, the way our language is towards people or at people, it can hinder how we show up. Like for me, I will use the example of public speaking. I'll tell a story, and Mum, if you listen to this, I fucking love you.
Hi, Mum.
Yeah. So there was a time I don't remember my age, 8, maybe 10, and I got an award and I went on stage, and I think I was meant to speak or something. I don't remember exactly how it was, but I went to speak in a microphone, and I looked out in the crowd. There was all these people. It was on an assembly, and I ran off the stage crying. I didn't do my speech.
Yeah.
And my mum was doing obviously the best she knew and the best she could do, and with so much love. Like, this was not intentional. She was soothing me, she was hugging me. I was crying. She's like, it's okay, like sometimes people just aren't good at public speaking, and you're really good at sport, so let's stick with sport. Yeah, I had this belief that I wasn't good at public speaking. And each time, I remember I was year 7, it happened again, and mum, that wasn't from like what happened with mum, but it was just this pattern of each time I would go up to public speaking, my throat would completely close and I wasn't able to physically speak. And I believe it came from basically not being told that public speaking wasn't for me. And like I said, when I started my yin yoga training, I still remember the first retreat that I attended. We go around a circle and everyone introduced themselves, a little bit about themselves. I looked at everyone, bursted into tears. I was like probably 28 at the time. Like, it's not like I was a little girl, but that programming of that first time that it happened, that programming followed through for every single time until I broke that. So there was a process that I went through with a coach that I work with, and he helped me be able to break through it. And it's something that I now teach and share with others, and it is literally fucking life-changing. Like, I feel as though, and I won't go into the process because if anyone receives it, it's something that you don't want to know what it is until you're receiving it, 'cause it'll take away from it. But completely life-changing.
I love the language you use, receiving, offering. It's not you get, you take.
Yeah.
Are those words really important? Because I hear it a lot with people in this space, and it's never a cost. It's an exchange.
Yeah.
Language is so important. Is that why these things are it's very important for you guys to have that language?
You know, it's so interesting. I've not actually consciously thought of...
Really?
Yeah, but...
Sorry, you're going to be like, oh,
no,
I said it.
But it's interesting because you're right. It is something that subconsciously happens, and I believe that there's so many shifts that we have in life, and language is so powerful. And as that story, like that story around limiting beliefs was based around language, and how people receive language is so powerful. So yeah, it is something that...
What would you then recommend? Because like I've got kids, they fail, they do well. In that situation, going back to you as a little girl, what would be, it's okay, you tried, you can always try again?
Yeah.
Like, is that the best... Not say it's okay, you're not good at something. Like, how do we do better as humans to anyone? Yeah.
I feel as though it's something that, like, I don't like the word fail, but it's something that we are going to have times in our life where it doesn't feel nice or it doesn't feel good, and that's okay. Let's just keep trying. Like, is this something that you actually really want to do? Let's keep trying for it.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, certain language like good or bad, or fail or succeed.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because it's like we're just trying, and if it feels right, we just keep going for it. Yeah, I think it's probably the certain language of, like I said, good or bad.
That all or nothing.
There's we have attachments to words, or I did anyway, speaking from my own personal experience.
Or I get triggered at certain words, and people go, no, I'm not saying it that way. I'm like, sorry, that was me.
Yeah, and it's things that come from a first experience of when we're a child. We go back to those moments. So if we've been told you're a bad girl or you're a bad boy as a kid, and then you're then going and saying that was good or bad, we take it back to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That inner child.
It's huge, and it's not something that's spoken about enough. Like, you know, when we talk about inner child work, us as adults, we have shadow sides, we have dark light, whatever you want to call it, And we're going to have times where we react because as children, we never were taught how to respond to situations. It was always reacting a lot of the time. So there are going to be times where we react like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you move through that? How do you work through that is what the outcome is.
Because there's a very big difference between trigger and a shadow, isn't there?
Yeah.
A trigger can be quite... I'm just going to speak from my experience where I can't control what comes up. It's almost like a fight or flight reaction, whereas a shadow is something that I can sort of see it creeping around the outside, and it's like, no, I know what you are. It's okay.
Yeah. And I would say a trigger comes from a wound.
Okay.
So a wound is something that we experience where we experience pain, basically.
Yeah.
And we don't want to feel that pain. And we will have triggering moments or triggering emotions that are associated with that wound. Yeah. Whereas a shadow is a part of us. A shadow we have when we speak about, say, feminine and masculine, we have our light feminine and our dark feminine, and then we have our light masculine and our dark masculine.
Yeah.
And within that, we have shadows to both sides. And they're not necessarily good or bad. It's just they're there. And if we've got like a suppression in one area, if you're sitting so far in your feminine, you might have a shadow come out in your masculine side because it's not sitting in balance. Yeah.
Is that where that you sort of yin yang and everything's got to be in balance comes from?
Yeah. So that's why. And when we speak about feminine and masculine, it isn't necessarily males or females. With males, they can have feminine and masculine sides, and females will have feminine and masculine sides. So I always like to say that it's not necessarily male or female when we speak about feminine and masculine. It's about being able to be in flow with that, and we will be in flow with that in different types of our days. So, for example, I would say when I was at the salon, I was very much in my masculine because I had a team to run, I had staff to run, decisions to make, and it's very go, 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 like hands on, get shit done. There wasn't much flow in that. There's no lunch breaks, there's no slowing down, there's huge hours. I was also at the time training a lot, like heavily at the gym. And when we're in that sort of environment, it's doing, it's not being. And so it's very structured and it's very programmed. And so for me in that area in my life, I was sitting so far in my masculine that I didn't know how to have flow in my life. Whereas now I would say I probably sit more in the feminine side, but I'm so aware of what feels feminine and what feels masculine that I can flow into it really easily. So for example, when I'm planning an event or something, I would allow myself to have flow prior, but there's still structure that's within that.
Otherwise you can get lost in that flow for a while and nothing gets done.
Yeah. So it's being able to have that balance. Like I feel my best work comes from when I'm in flow, but if I'm too far in that flow, it's airy fairy and people won't receive it as well, or I've noticed. As well as if I have a little bit of structure and a little bit of plan, but then allow that flow to happen within that.
I can't remember what podcast I was listening to the other day, but they were trying to explain to people in a really easy way what masc and femme is, because everyone's like, masc is this big mass man and femme's this sort of thing. And you were saying it then, like the flow, like the masculine, it's the car, it's the black, it's the white, it's the decision making, and then the feminine is feminine, can't talk today, is the wind that blows through, it's the weather, it's that flow, it's all those light things that have variables to them, and you very much need to have that mixture of both.
Something this is like the most basic terminology I can say between femme and masc is think of masculine as doing. So when we're doing things, we're getting shit done basically, and feminine is being.
I love
so
that.
You're simply just being, you're in flow, you're with your children, you're out, whatever you're doing,
floating in the ocean or something.
You're in flow and there's not much structure. Maybe on a Sunday afternoon where you're just with your family and you're not doing a whole lot, but you're flowing with the day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's the most basic way I would say is there's a difference between like doing and then being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Another thing I really love is breath work.
Yeah.
So if anyone hasn't tried breath work, it's really hard to explain. For myself, no two experiences have ever been the same. It is pure fucking magic. Like, at the end of it, when you get out, you just stand taller. You feel taller. I've had chronic back issues. Every time I've ever done a breathwork session without medical intervention, my back pain goes until it all creeps back in. A lot of people aren't aware of what breathwork is. They may think it's a bit weird. They may think it's a bit woohoo and culty. But can you just step us through? Obviously, we can't dive in too deep, but what does a breathwork sort of session look like for someone if they're potentially a bit like, oh, I really want to try it, but I'm scared?
Yeah. Breath work, I always like to start with saying that breath work is not called breath work for no reason. And I say that is because it's work. It can be really hard to do.
Yeah.
But in the most magical and profound way. It's hard because, well, you're breathing constantly. Like
Yes.
you are breathing for a solid hour.
Yeah.
It's guided for the start and then it goes into your own flow. And it can feel really challenging because there's things that can come up that consciously we think we're not ready for. But the way that our body works is our subconscious mind will not bring up anything that we're not ready to go through.
Yeah.
So basically I'll explain a little bit like what it does. So breath work is basically a practice that you're breathing in and out the mouth. It's guided at the start and then we go into like your natural, or it's not natural state of breathing, but you go into your own flow state of breathing, whatever that looks like for the person.
Yeah.
And if you think of right now, you and I are in our everyday thinking mind. So even though we're having a conversation, there's things that pop up.
I can hear the aircon, the bird. Yeah.
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 So we're in our everyday thinking mind, and that's what we call our conscious mind. Breathwork takes us into the deeper layers within and takes us into the subconscious layers. So the things in our life that we have suppressed, the things in our life that we may not have actually allowed ourselves to feel or move through, that's what's laying on the subconscious layers, and that's what breathwork can bring up.
Yeah.
Breathwork is something that the only time it won't work is if your conscious mind is like, if fear's there and if you're not surrendering into what can come up, because the conscious mind is so powerful that it will break through that.
That little, it's not working.
Yes,
it's not working.
Yes. Why am I here? What am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it happens. I've had that happen many times through breath work. But I always like to add into that, because our mind is so powerful, something to be mindful of is that our subconscious mind will not bring up things unless we're ready to go there. And that can feel really scary, because it's something that if you've got childhood stuff that's coming up, or if you've got an experience in your life that you were like, no, I don't want to go there, but it comes up, I promise you it means that it's ready to come up.
Yeah.
So,
and it generally doesn't show up in a scary
no
way.
No.
So guys, it's not going to be like, it's not terrifying. It shows up in a beautiful healing way. Yeah.
So I think something that I like to say for people that haven't done breath work is the trust and the safety that is held in the space is number one, like, priority. So when I'm holding a breathwork session, it's something that I spend as much time as needed to be able to ground people into the space, explain the power of the breath, explaining what can show up, and creating that safety, doing meditations and grounding practices prior, cleansing and all of that, to be able to really allow people to feel the safety in the space before they go in.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's like that's more important than the breathwork itself.
How do you navigate that on days where you're not feeling... Will you reschedule?
Yeah.
Sorry to go off topic. That just came up. I'm like, shit, if your energy's not...
Yeah, and there have been times, like, I've gone through times in my life where I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And I will comfortably say like, hey, I've had something come up and I'm just moving through it myself. I need to reschedule.
And that's honouring yourself too.
It's so
which
important.
is huge, which
And
you probably
especially
haven't
'cause
done
we
in
can-
a long time. Yeah.
And especially because energy is energy, it's transferable. If I've got rough energy floating around, that is like number one energy hygiene
Yes.
of
So do you cleanse afterwards?
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of protecting practices that I do leading into every session, regardless if I'm feeling, great or not great. Because energy is transferable.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things that I do prior to a session and post a session.
Yep.
To be able to protect on both sides.
Yeah, I love that energy hygiene.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's so important, and I've learnt that the hard way. I've learnt that through at the start not even knowing that that's what I had to do. I knew about like cleansing and smudging, but I would finish with sessions and I would be zonked, like my body was in so much pain and aches. And
yeah, because I've just left all my shit in your room and I've just left skipping going, thanks. And you're like, oh, get this off.
Yeah. But whenever I'm doing a session, whether it's breath work, whether it's Reiki or a massage even, I'm breathing myself. So basically the way I describe it is I use my body like a hose.
Yep.
So if I'm touching like anywhere on your body, I can feel the energy moving through my body.
Yep.
And I'm sending it back out by breathing, by flicking, by stomping sometimes. And it's very, very intentional. There's smudge, there's Palo Santo, there's all different practices that you can do pre and post and even during if I can feel something that really needs to shift. But yeah, energy hygiene is huge because it's something that can be transferred both sides.
Yeah. And breathwork, for me, I would think is probably one of the most transformative.
It can be.
Yeah.
There's things with breathwork that some people are like, oh, that didn't feel quite right for me.
Yeah.
But then when they try it again, then they're like, oh, I just wasn't open last time.
Yes.
Yeah, so that, like, I'm going to use the word surrendering, and it sounds so, again, cliche, but it is truly about being like, you know what, whatever the fuck is going to come up, it's going to come up and it's going to be there, and that's okay, because it wouldn't come up if it's not meant to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so allowing that to be there and having that those surrendering moments of like, okay, I'm gonna move through this.
Yeah.
Is so huge, because if you've got like a block or a barrier there, you're not going to allow yourself to go there.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to speak on it, but like what are some of the big transformations that you've seen come out of breathwork?
Yeah. Obviously I won't name names.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been a range of what I find people move through, and it's very personal to the person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there has been one woman in particular that I remember so clearly. So this woman had never had an orgasm in her life.
Yeah.
And had a lot of suppressed stored energy in her body from some childhood trauma. And witnessing her move through that, it's like you could see her body, you could see and feel the energy in her womb space. Her body started like really like moving in flow, and because voice can come through in breath work quite profoundly. So for some people it might look at like screaming or yelling, other people it might be laughing with joy or whatever it might be. This woman started having orgasms throughout, and it was like orgasm after orgasm after orgasm.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was to be able to witness that, knowing her story move, because I'd worked with her before. So to be able to witness that in a space of knowing her story and physically seeing her work through it,
wow,
that was like a real... Well, I know it was life-changing for her, because she's shared with me since that her intimacy with her husband is
she's
amazing.
able to receive that love now.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's probably like, I would say, a really big one that I've been like, wow, breath work is powerful.
Yes.
And like to think that this is something that we have every day with us. This isn't something, like I always say, just because I'm guiding it, it's not me doing it. Like, it is your breath, and you have the power in you to be able to allow yourself to get there. Yeah. And what I love about it is that she trusted enough to be able to, or fully trusted, not even enough, like she fully trusted that experience, and to be able to be moving through an orgasm while someone's basically watching you is huge.
Especially when you haven't even been able to have one.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was probably like the biggest one that I've been like, wow, that was like really cool.
Yeah, that
really
is incredible.
Cool. Yeah. A bit of a lighter version of what I love is when joy comes through. So think about when we are children and how many times we're told, like, don't be laughing because there's all these people around, or don't be doing this, shut up, be quiet. Like, we're taught to suppress joy. Like, you think about the kid running around on the playground screaming with joy and laughter, and mum's like, shut up, there's people around. That's suppressed joy.
Yeah.
So to be able to like watch adults like release joy and laughter, and that's suppressed energy, and I love being able to witness people in a joy state, because it's not all heavy.
No.
Like, a lot of the stuff that we move through in breathwork is actually really light, when, especially once you've worked through the darker parts.
And I find it really interesting that people can't fathom that breath work would work, yet your child, for example, is really upset and you're like, just breathe, it's okay. We constantly tell each other, just breathe. Or, you know, you've gone for an exhausting run and you just breathe.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I can't remember which team it was. Might have been Canterbury Bulldogs or someone for the NRL. There's a few of them that do it now. And after a try, they go into a huddle and you watch them. They're doing nose breaths.
Cool.
Deep nose breaths.
Yes.
And all together, these big, grown, strong men are going, just trying to calm their nervous system down. No one talks.
Oh,
There's just someone in the middle. I'll have to find the clip and send it to you, because my husband goes, they're doing breath work. And I went, yeah, they are.
Powerful.
It is so, so powerful. And
it
helps you reconnect back to you.
Yeah. And it's something like, you think about it, our breath is gifted to us at the moment that we're birthed until the moment that we leave.
We need
that
it.
is a gift.
Absolutely.
It's huge. And it's like, how do we not use it?
Yeah.
Or we're not taught to use it. We're given medicines and we're given all these things to like fix and cover. Yeah. But we're not actually, like, there's so much in breath work that
we do have a lot of tools ourselves, don't we?
Yeah, changes people's lives. Like, I know my coach, my mentor, his story is huge, but he has a story where basically he was given 24 hours to live. Again, I don't want to butcher his story, so I won't go too much into it, but basically he found breath work. Wow. And he's still alive.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he was like, it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some things people may experience with breath work?
Yeah. Laughter, joy, which I love. There can be heightened emotions, so a lot of crying. There can be screaming, so anger or rage that can come through. Again, if you think of anything in life that we've suppressed, it sits in our subconscious layers. So anything emotionally wise that we've suppressed, that can come up.
Yeah.
In the physical body as such, it can be what we call tetany, where our hands go up and they go all tight, and it's energy moving throughout the hands and trying to shift throughout the body. When that happens, I'm always sort of moving the energy around, encouraging to like wriggle, move the fingers, because the more movement we have in the hands or the legs or the jaw, if it comes up in the jaw, the more it's shifting, it's not getting stuck in those areas. There can be coughing, so when we think about like our main energy points there, from the tip of our crown to the base of our spine, one of our main energy points is our throat, and that's the base of our communication. So a lot of people, we're not taught to communicate, or communication has been suppressed. So coughing can be something that can come up because it's just a block. And if it happens and it gets like a bit excessive, I would just roll the person over and just do some gentle, like bring them out of the actual breath work as such. Yeah. But Yeah, it's every single breath work will be so different. Like what can show up in one breath work session, some people's bodies literally are just completely weightless and they're having like the most profound experiences, but on the outside it doesn't look like that. But then on the other side of that, you can have someone that's like their whole body is all locked up and their body is, you know, looks like there's so much energy and it's so stored, and they're having these massive energy releases or anger or rage coming up, and then you have them slowly come out of it and they're like, wow, that was so beautiful. And I'm like, damn. Like,
You're like, you didn't see what I saw.
Yeah. So, and each experience, as you would know, you've done breath work many times, each experience, you will never have the same experience throughout breath work. It will always be completely different. You can have layers of stuff come up. So for example, if you're, I don't know, working through something in your life and it's been one, say for some people it might be a relationship breakdown and that comes up for you, your next breathwork session you may have that come up, but it will be a deeper layer of what you're actually releasing. Yeah.
So it's not just one and done. Like we said before, healing is definitely not linear.
No. Yeah. There's so many different things that we can do for, if we want to say healing, it depends how light you want to go, how heavy you want to go. And when I say heavy, I mean more of like the breathwork side of things where it is physical work. Or you can do something lighter that is more like Reiki or kinesiology or an intuitive style massage where we're working with energy, but we're not, I'm going to say forcing.
Forcing it to come out. It's just flowing with you.
Yeah.
So with Reiki and the yin yoga and everything like that, like that's important practices that you do. What's the difference between that and say breath work? Like what's the advantages of adding those in as well?
Yeah. So I always say that there's a time and a place for everything. And being able to work through different things in different layers is really, really important. So for the likes of breath work, because we're working with what's on the subconscious layers, so that's like when we're not in our everyday thinking mind, what I believe is important about that is because we're actually allowing things to come up that need to come up, that we're not consciously being like, oh, I'm not ready for that.
Yes. Gotcha.
Yeah, so the things that are actually really there and really present, they're the things that for the likes of breath work will come up. On the likes of, I'm going to say more like say yin yoga, really, really beautiful practice to come back into the body, to allow yourself presence and time and space and softness and flow. All of those things are so, so important in our life, but is it going to bring up those subconscious layers? No. But is it a part of the journey? Yes.
It's almost like the surface level to keep your maintenance going.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Whereas like say Reiki and an intuitive style massage, they're my two favorite together. I love them so much because it will allow, if you're open to it, like your energy is open, it will allow for things to come to the surface. Like I've had people have quite big breakthroughs or emotional releases through massage and Reiki because their energy is open to it. But it's a very soft and gentle way because there's no language on my end being used to trigger anything. So what I mean by that is when I'm doing Reiki or a massage, obviously there's music, but it's purely my energy and your energy working together. So whatever is coming up is meant to be there because I'm not speaking into anything that is triggering an emotion or a reaction as such. Whereas say for example with breath work, the way I facilitate breath work, I don't use certain language because I'm not trying to make shit come up basically. However, by me speaking and the energy in the room of breath work, it can trigger things because it's deeper.
And I felt like your words when with doing breath work was able to get my conscious brain to go away and come back to what you were saying until you could just switch that off and slide in.
So it's like, you know, allowing yourself to go there, allowing yourself to be vulnerable. What's there? Let it be there. Know that you're safe. Trust the experience. So I'm not using language. So that's, the language that I do use. I'm not saying things like, what's coming up to you from your childhood? Does that make sense? And
tell me about your father.
Right? Literally. But unfortunately, I've actually been in breathwork spaces where they will bring up things, or the language that they use is very specific, And does it release energy? Yeah, fuck yeah, it does. You're in a space where you are breathing and it's going to bring shit up. Is it coming from the subconscious layers? No, not in my belief, because that's a conscious mind thinking about what happened in my childhood.
Or like, why would he say that?
Trigger.
Why would they say it?
Yeah. And that's happened. I've received, plus been in a space where I was a co-facilitator, not from an event of mine, but when I was witnessing the language, I'm like, oh, and I've never been back, because I'm like, I can't, like, it's something, to me, that's not subconscious layers. That is a very conscious choice of words to be able to, for someone to go somewhere, but that's not bringing it up naturally. Yeah.
How does one who wants to get into this and doesn't know where to start, how do you know who's going to be right for you when it comes to this? Because it's such a personal, vulnerability is huge. Is there certain things?
For me personally, like I said at the start, I just tried a few different places and a few different experiences, and at the time it felt really good for me. As I became more aware of my own energy and my own experiences, I was like, oh, that doesn't actually feel quite right now. And it's not to say that it's good or bad, it's just it didn't feel right for me.
Yeah.
So I always say, first of all, probably looking through if the person has social media, that they're, like if I was talking to someone, I would say, like, have a look at their social media, see if it feels like it aligns with you. Have a look at the language that is used on their social media, because my stance on, I'm going to say healing, is we're not trying to fix anything. I'm not trying to heal you. I'm not doing it. Like, you are doing the work, and I'm just here guiding and giving you tools to be able to go home and do it yourself as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I suppose if you're looking at certain social media pages and there's promises that this is going to change your life and this will fix you and this is going to heal you forever, like,
drink the Kool-Aid,
right?
Yeah,
they're the things, in my experience or my opinion, that is probably, like, comes from more of an ego-based than a heart-based, or promises, because I can't promise you that you're going to be healed, because it's up to you if you allow it to happen. I can show up the same way that I would show up for you, opposed to the person next to you, and how you receive that is on you. It's got nothing to do with me. Yeah. Like, I think that it's so huge that even when people will say to me, oh my God, you literally changed my life, I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, thank you.
I held the space.
Yeah. Like, I know, I hear where it's coming from, and, like, I love you and thank you for saying that, but you did this. Like, take that power and own that power, because I didn't do it. Like, I just held, like you said, just held the space for it and guided a bit and created safety.
Do you think you'd be able to do this without your own life experiences?
No. Yeah.
You often see, and, like, full props to them, but 18-year-olds popping up as life coaches.
Yeah.
I was speaking to it with another guest and that, but, you know, unless you've lived it, but then people will be like, oh, well, she can't heal you because she's done this, this and this. Well, no, I'm not actually healing you, but let me be vulnerable and share my experiences so you can understand what these practices have done for me. Has sharing your vulnerability and your story, has that been a big game changer?
Yeah. You know what? I think it's actually even acknowledging my own stuff. I've been, like, quite comfortable to be able to talk about certain things, like, publicly. And then there's other things where I've buried so fucking deep that I've only just started speaking into a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And just at the recent retreat that I ran, it came up for me in that space. And the way that I was able to hold the space in that retreat, purely because I was vulnerable and open, and the respect that had come from that was huge. And that's something that I'd never spoken into. Like, one or two people in my life know about that experience. So I feel as though it comes from life experience, but it also comes with having vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
is, people see vulnerability as weakness, but it then allows somebody else to be seen,
Yeah.
and allows them to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think it's something, especially men struggle with, because it's like men don't cry, men
Yes.
don't do this. And I've always been very guilty of being in my mask. I didn't grow up with a dad around. I was the handyman of the house. I did this, I did that. My mum cooked. I was very much in that. And now trying to show that vulnerability, sometimes I'll break down to some of my closest friends. They've never seen me cry, but you're the strong one. And it almost doesn't allow you to be vulnerable. But then again, in my space that I work in, the beauty salon, I laugh and cry with my clients. I allow them to be whoever they are when they walk through the door. And I think, like you said, holding space for people in a world where it's so busy, and whether it was COVID, fucking social media, we've lost that connection.
Yeah.
Like, we communicate via messages.
Yeah.
Or by Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, no one really rings
No.
anymore. Or you walk past someone that you follow on Instagram or chat on Instagram, and it's like, oh, hi. Like, we just go back in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
I really feel that. I feel that when we allow that vulnerability as well, or show that vulnerability, because like it can be there, but sometimes we don't show it. When we actually show that and show up in that space, it gives complete permission for the others around.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm facilitating a retreat, it's how am I supposed to run a retreat and just be this person up on, up the top, which isn't how it is, but that's what it is perceived as, and stand up there and be guiding all this stuff, but then I'm telling them to be safe and feel this and be open. But if I'm not doing that, how are they supposed to? It's not modeled to them. So this last retreat that we had was, I am going to say, life-changing for the people. Like, it was huge because they allowed themselves to be open, and they allowed themselves to completely receive. But I feel as though the facilitators, like when planning the retreat, it was very, very specific and very conscious choices with it. And I think that helped when we were leading the retreat. There was so much vulnerability, which created so much connection. Yeah.
Do you find too, like, being in a group retreat, it can be a lot more powerful than that one-on-one?
Oh my God, huge.
Because everyone holds space for the other, and it's like, fuck, I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it together.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Say, for example, like hairdressing, it's one-on-one.
Yes.
And when I first started coming into this space, my vision was like doing one-on-one day retreats with people. So it was, doing a massage, doing reiki, doing breathwork, and it was all going to be one-on-one. And as I slowly started like evolving and being like, no, I can do this as a group, I was very restrictive with the way that I allowed things to flow because of my own personal fears.
Yeah.
So I, at the time, really felt super uncomfortable with being put in a group that I didn't know people, or being put with a partner that you don't know.
I know, it's terrifying.
Right?
It's like, give me your elevator pitch. Why are you here? I'm like,
go around the circle and tell me about yourself, or whatever it is. Like, it's really uncomfortable when you don't know people. So a lot that I planned in my first retreat, even a little bit in my second retreat, was based on how I don't want people to feel.
Yes.
And as much as that's coming from a nice place, I didn't have a clear vision with, well, what do I want this experience to be? It was, I've experienced this and I don't want them to feel that. So something that I realized as it's evolved, I'm like, healing comes from connection, and it comes from community. We're not meant to do this work alone.
Yes.
And when you allow yourself to be open, you can feel so much potency in this work, and being in a group and having people hold you, like physically hold you while you are having a moment on the floor. Like, there was one experience at the breathwork where we had one woman in particular have like quite a big breakthrough, and it was just one of the facilitators asking her a few questions, and we really got to a breakthrough moment for her where she had a massive realization of what was underneath her control, and why she was controlling situations and what was actually under there. And there was a lot of sadness, but there was love that she basically had never allowed anyone to see, and she was scared that she would never. It was. Aww. It was huge. So we were able to break through what it was under the control, because she had a fear of not having that love fully seen or fully heard or felt, whatever it was for her. And she had this massive breakthrough. And at the end of it, Todd, he was asking her the questions, he said to her, "What do you need right now?" And she just like looked up and she goes, "A hug." And literally there was 23 of us in that room, and every single one of us came over to her, and there was the biggest group hug you've ever, and all of us were bawling our eyes out. And such a small little, what sounds so small was so profound for her, and she's like, that fucking changed my life. All I needed was a hug. All I needed was love. And I've been too fucking scared to let people to feel that, because I was scared that it wasn't going to be received. And all of us, like, that was, I think, on the first day, to be honest, or maybe the second day. And from that moment of her just being open, it just allowed this community and this connection to come through. That was, beautiful. And there were many moments like that on the retreat. But my stance on community and connection is so much deeper than I've ever, what I ever thought it would be, because I'd have like severe anxiety about bringing groups together.
God,
Yes. Like, I was the person that would hang out with my friends one-on-one, even if we were all friends, because I get anxious around, but this person might not get along with that person, or
it's
what
having
about
that
this?
Right community.
But like, no, we can all just show up as we are. Why can't we just, if someone's having a moment, let them have a moment. If someone's happy, let them be happy. Why? Like, it was like I was too worried about someone clashing, or what if this confrontation comes up? Who fucking cares? Let it come out. It's there for a reason.
That's it. They can sort it out or move on.
So to me, community and connection now is far different to what I ever, because there was fear. Like, my choices were based around fear. They weren't based around what I truly felt.
And like community is so important. We go back into all the years and years ago. You were raised by a tribe. You were raised by multiple people. Now we barely know our neighbours. We barely speak to people when we pass the street.
I know.
It's just a yes, no, tap your card, get your coffee,
100%.
not how you going.
Order on the screen.
So it's so beautiful that, like, you can bring all these wonderful people together that are just, we're all beautifully scarred humans rolling around. And some of us are a little bit more in tune with it than others, but it's just, like, I've done one-on-one and I've done group. I love them both. They both have their places, but I just feel like community's just so big at the moment.
Powerful.
And the right people.
God,
guys, if someone's making you feel anxious, you got to get to the bottom of that. Because you are the people you surround yourself with.
Yes.
So you can go and do as much breath work as you want, but if you continue to put yourself in these, don't do the work, and you can put yourself back into that, you're just going to be back there again going, keeps happening. I don't understand why.
Self-sabotage.
Oh, gosh, isn't that right? I have always wanted to go on a spiritual retreat, but I don't know, there's something stopping me. I don't know what it is. I've done the one-on-ones, I've done the little group ones, but I really want to just go away and experience this on a bigger scale. Like, I don't know what's stopping me. Help me ease my mind. What can you expect from, like, a retreat like that? Like, you're not going to make me be silent for 3 days and wear certain clothes and do certain things.
No. My intentions, my whole intention behind Conscious Heart Awakening is self-connection. So with the retreats, it's the same intention, I suppose, going into it. So I believe that the retreat is right for anyone that is looking for that self-connection, looking for that place of coming home. With the retreats, it's very much in the personal development space. So there's a lot of things that we work through with limiting beliefs, breaking through those barriers, those conditionings, understanding, like we were talking about earlier with the wounds. So understanding what the wounds are and the layers in life of that. So understanding who our core essence is. We've then got, I won't go into detail here because it's actually taught on the retreat.
Yep.
But it is, then we've got like the wounds, which is understanding what they are and where they come from, and then our compensation and how we show up in the world because of those wounds. So our behaviors, our reactions, our triggers, and then tools on how to come back into our essence, so coming back into ourselves. So I suppose about how to ease your mind, I feel as though it's probably more, the question would be is if it's the right fit, if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, okay.
Because each retreat that you sign up for any retreat is going to be completely different. You might have some retreats that are for like a relaxation retreat where there's like massages and delicious food and a little bit of breath work and maybe some meditations or some sound healing, and it's probably more on the spiritual side, and it's, I love them. Like I will actually be facilitating a retreat next year, where I'll be co-facilitating with someone, and that's what we will be doing. With the soul and self retreats that I run, they're more on the personal development space.
Gotcha.
So what I was talking about there. So I would probably say for anyone that feels nervous or unsure if it's for them is to do your research on what it is that you're actually looking for, because there's so much profound experience that can happen from a retreat, but it depends what you're looking for. If you're not wanting to go inwards and you're just wanting to have a bit of a holiday and to go and get a massage, the other retreat is probably more for you.
Yeah, okay. So
Does
sort
that
of
make sense?
Yeah, connect with yourself, work out, okay, I'm feeling this, this and this. I really want to know what this is. Why do I do these things?
Yeah,
and then
it's
see if
very
that
much
matches
in
up.
the personal development space.
Yep.
But along with adding in breath work, and we're still doing like all of the meditations, we're doing yoga, like it's a whole mix of things.
Yeah.
And energy is energy. You know, energy, we work with energy throughout the retreat.
Yep.
But the work that we're doing is very much inner self-connection work and understanding ourselves and giving you tools and giving you practices to be able to work through what it is.
And so holistic, like down to the food to nourish yourself.
Yes.
The place that you stay.
Oh
like,
my God, the place
it's very magical.
Outrageous. Yeah, it's 5-star. It's absolutely, it's so beautiful. There's a choice of 2 rooms, so there's a king private room that you can choose. All of the rooms have their own little kitchenette, their own bath, it's magic. Or you can have 2 king single beds and have like a shared room as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's such a beautiful place. Like I've been to a few retreats myself and I've never stayed at places like that.
Yeah.
And it's always, you have to be sharing with people, whereas this, you've got an option if you want to be on your own, you just pay a little bit extra and you've got your own space.
Because you may need some time to yourself
100%.
with whatever comes up.
Yeah,
and I love to, like the actual location that you've selected, there's got to be some big crystals or stuff around that place because it's very calming, even if you're not there for that reason.
Yeah, it is. It's so beautiful. Is there crystals? No, there's not. I bring a lot of crystals.
Yeah, beautiful.
But yeah, I hear what you say. It is like the energy of that place is beautiful.
Yeah, I always wonder, like, I'm like, there must be some sort of quartz underneath
the
ground.
Oh, there's got to be. Yeah.
It's funny, there in like the hinterland up near like Miller and that.
I get what you're saying.
You're just like, even in the waters you swim in, you're like, it just feels soul cleansing.
Yes, yeah.
So that's always, they've been really mindful decisions you've made for every aspect of the retreats.
And I think the more that that was my 4th retreat now, and I've learnt so much about myself and about my own facilitation, along with, I went and did some one-on-one coaching with my mentor that I was talking about earlier. And we really worked through like the whole intention of was going there to be able to create new content for the upcoming retreats. But in that, I was put through all of the processes, obviously, that I would be sharing with people. And the transformative experiences that it brought up for me allowed me then to be able to share that. But that came with vulnerability and openness, and with a very, very clear intention of where I'm going with conscious heart awakening and how I envision it, and just like the heart and the essence of conscious heart awakening and what that is,
and that's
which is self-connection.
And that's what I feel like your retreats can give you. Like you're like, I was able to hone in and key on it. That can give you that for yourself. And hone in on, oh, okay, I understand why I do the things I do. I know what I can do to change this.
100%.
That's
There's
so
one thing I regret on the retreat was I didn't get any testimonials.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll come through
in the moment, but everyone was on. It was the most profound transformational retreat that I've either received or been facilitating, and everyone's transformations, like there wasn't one person in that space that didn't have a shift or a transformation. And I wish that I would be able to just have everyone hear it, because I have so much passion and love behind what it is that these spaces create for people, and I know and I see how much change that it can bring. But to be able to share that, I sometimes really struggle with words to be able to express what it is, and to be able to explain what it is that we do, because the practices that we go through and the experiences that we go through just can't be put into words.
No, they can't.
And sometimes when it's coming from me, you do. And sometimes when it's coming from me, I never want it to come from a place of sales. Because it's that's not where it's at.
It's not about the exchange. No, it's about that growth, that transformation. Helping people step into themselves.
Their power and their strength, their love, their softness.
Do you watch them leave and like kids off to school, and you can see they're walking taller, lighter? You can, their skin changes.
Everything changes. Their whole body, like their face looks different. Like even we all went out for breakfast like a week later from when we got back. It was just over on the weekend, and some of the people's faces, I'm like, you look different. They're like, oh, I'm feeling fucking great. Like, I'm like, oh, it's so powerful to see. Like, it's so beautiful.
Well, like emotional baggage and trauma is called that because we carry it around. It's heavy.
It is.
You see people that have lived harder lives than others, and you can see it in their skin, in their eyes.
100%. We carry it, we store it.
If there's listeners out there that are sitting there going, I know I need to do something, but I don't know where to start. This sounds kind of cool, but I just, I don't know, what do I do? Have you got some advice for them at all?
Message me.
Yes.
I say that with love. I think that it's trusting the process, that you're getting the calling for a reason. We have these like little moments, like I shared with my first ever experience of going into a meditation and having that really big breakthrough. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I just knew that I was a little bit stressed. Same with the kinesiology. I was a little bit stressed and I needed to do something.
What's the worst that could happen?
Just give it a go. And allow yourself to go there. Allow yourself to be open and have an open mind with it, because any of this sort of work is not going to work if you're like, I don't want to do it, but like I've been told someone should make me do this. Don't do it if someone's making you do it. Do it because you want to do it and you want to come back home to yourself, and give yourself the time and the space that you deserve to be able to to do that.
Is there anything a little less scary that they could start with? Like, I know you're a big advocate for journaling and sitting in your shit and feeling it, because we distract. We smoke, we drink, shop, keep busy.
All of it.
It's okay to sit and feel.
And there are, I think the biggest thing with journaling is a lot of people think that they're doing it wrong. So it's like the whole Dear Diary, or do you know what I mean? Or people think that someone's going to read it. I'm like, rip up the pages in 1,000 pieces or burn it. Do something that allows that freedom of writing. Journaling, I always say, is a form of suppression. A form of expression.
Yep.
So, for example, if it's things that you feel as though you struggle to communicate or open up about, like with your voice, write it down, or write someone a letter. Like if there's something that you want to say to someone but you're struggling to use your voice, write them a letter. Even if you don't give it to them, it's a form of expression. and expression stops suppression in the body.
Yes.
So when we talk about stored energy or stored emotion in the body, that's what journaling can help with, and that can just be a start. As far as like practices that people can do, like if you're seeking externally in that, I would say something like yoga is a really beautiful way to just start in this space, and it's not going to be for everyone. Some people love it, some people don't. Things like intuitive style massages, reiki, kinesiology is a really good one. It's definitely a lot deeper, and there is talking in that, so if you're not quite ready to talk, probably massage and reiki or yin yoga. Yin yoga opposed to like say a flow yoga is you're on a bolster and you're supported, and it's soft and it's gentle. I always say it's like a gentle stretch. So it's not flowing, it's supported, and it's really, really beautiful. But I would say it just depends if you're looking for something externally, as in to receive from someone. They're probably the 3 that I would go with, and just read into someone. Like, I'm going to say go with your gut feeling. You know that initial feeling, if you get a pull towards someone, if you're going through their social media page and you're getting a real pull towards them, that's your gut feeling or your intuition guiding you. If you're looking at someone's social media and you're not sensing something, or something doesn't resonate and it's feeling a bit yucky in your body, you'll feel it. Like we get a bit clenched, or our mind is like, what the fuck? Like, we don't like it. And trust that it's there for a reason. Go and find another page that does.
It's funny, or like the link won't work.
And
you're like, but why? And you keep trying, and it's like, sis, put stop.
Yes.
There's a reason it's not working. Stop forcing it.
100%.
Yeah,
I think it's just trusting your intuition. If you're getting a pull towards this and you feel scared, have trust that there's a reason that the pull is there. Like I shared at the start with my sister, I was not open to any of that. She started doing all these different trainings and was cooking me beautiful, nice, delicious meals, and I didn't give a fuck about it.
I want a cheeseburger.
Literally,
what is this?
Christmas Day, I drove to Macca's and got a cheeseburger when she made me all this beautiful food. Anyways, but I suppose what I'm saying with that is that you will be ready when you're ready, not because someone's trying to tell you you're ready. Yeah, and just trust in that, and trust in the experience, the journey to get you there. So beautifully put. Thank you so much for coming along and chatting with us. I'll pop all of Dani's contact details in the show notes and that, and also she'll be tagged in a lot of the promo stuff that we're doing anyway, so please feel free to reach out if you're unsure of anything. She's got a website there that's very in-depth, so you can really go in there, read about it, see how you feel about everything. But I can't thank you enough for coming on. Thank you.
You are just, you're like sunshine in human form, and I just want to share you with the world and what you do, because it's more people need to be doing this and coming back to themselves, because the world is such a better place when, you know who you are again. And you can accept yourself and love yourself and be okay with all the scars and everything that comes along with it. So thank you for sharing your story and coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, guys, please reach out to Dani. Don't feel like you can't. All of her details will be there. So thank you again, my dear. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, thanks.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to our latest episode. Your support means the world. So wherever you're listening, if you don't mind jumping on, follow, like, share it with someone that might get something out of it. I would so appreciate it. If there's something in this episode that has piqued your interest and you want to get in touch, please slide into the DMs. Until next episode, guys, stay safe, be an extra kind human, and see you soon.